Hey, Lauren, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
So, tell us who you are, what you do.
So, name's Lauren Vaughn. So, I'm the founder and CEO of Quintessa Marketing. And Quintessa, what we do is we help people that have been injured in an accident. We match them with a lawyer. So, we're pretty much like a matchmaking service for people that have been in an accident and for personal injury lawyers who need cases.
Awesome. And how did you get started? Was this by accident? Did you have visions of doing this? What's the origin story?
Definitely didn't grow up as a little girl thinking that I would be working with personal injury lawyers. That wasn't really in the dream. But I started as an executive assistant for someone that was actually doing TV commercials. So I was doing sales at AT&T, and a gentleman came in and didn't really understand his phone, wanted to return it. I turned around and sold it back to him, and he was like, "Hey, I need you to come help me with sales." And he was working with personal injury lawyers, and I was really just kind of the gopher. Like, I was the executive assistant, so I'd go pick them up, and I got to really hear all about their issues, all about, what they were experiencing, things like that. And over the next 5, 6 years, I just elevated throughout the company. I started the SEO part, the SEO division of the company, and I asked the owners if I could profit share if I figured it out internally instead of outsourcing that. And when I figured it out, then our sales went through the roof and SEO became like the main part of our business. And just through some natural progression, did some work with the agency, and then had my daughter in 15 and wanted to move back to Oklahoma. And after that, decided to start the company.
So, is your business bigger than that law firm that you were the executive assistant?
Yeah. So we had about, I think, 20 employees like at the top. And we have at the agency that I worked for. And right now we've got about 110.
That's fantastic. That's got to be pretty nice to think back, be like, you should have hired me a lot bigger than this virtual assistant, the gopher.
Yeah. But you know what? I'll tell you, I think when you start at the bottom and you work your way up, like, we can spot so many blind spots now in the company. Like, if something's going wrong, I've seen it happen before. And I don't think I would have had that experience, or really that knowledge base, unless I would have gone through everything. So lots of valuable lessons, I think, along the way.
Well, everything, life just leaves us clues that we need to kind of, learn from. And then, yeah, you can make a lot better decisions. So many people I interview, they started their agency by accident. They knew, like, for example, for me, like, I designed a website making fun of one of my friends that looked like Justin Timberlake. And then people started asking me to design websites. And I didn't even know what an invoice was. I didn't even know what whatever it was. And you just have to figure it out. But then it makes you that much more aware rather than when you're dealing with some. I remember dealing with really big clients, like, we built LegalZoom or Hitachi or whoever. There's so many gaps and they have so many blinders on that you just can't see.
Yeah.
What what was it like, or what was it like going from kind of a small team to over 100 people that you have now? What's been the biggest learning curve?
Um, you know, um, I think learning curve is bringing on outside people. I think really bringing in outside leadership to help scale and grow the company. You know, what's very difficult in this business has never been done before. So it's not like I can go to a competitor and just pluck out their leadership and put them in my company and help them grow. So there is this constant friction of, you want to control it because you know what should happen, but you want to push your team and allow them to run, give them the grace to run and to make mistakes if they need to, and give them kind of the grace, but still have a company that's profitable and pushing to where you need to be. So it's a constant battle, I feel like, that I go through, um, because you want the company to do so much, especially with us, because we give away half our profit. So that is like at the heart of everything we do. And but you also want to trust your team and allow them to grow and scale the company the way that they feel like they're invested into and the purpose that they have as well. So I think that's probably been the hardest thing, for me. And then also knowing, I mean, because I've never done this before, right? I've never ran a multi-million dollar company. You don't know what you don't know, and humility is a huge part of that. And you have to be able to ask for help. Like, just you need to be able to ask and look for advice and understand other people's experiences and how you can use those and apply it to your company.
Where have you found the best talent for your leadership team? Because there's a lot of people listening. They have some people on their leadership team. Some people may not have, or maybe they have the wrong people on the team.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
finding the right person, finding the right who, is always a challenge. What's
Yeah.
worked for you?
So a couple of things. We our leadership and really all of our people that we hire that we partner with, they have to align with our values. So one, we're very clear on what our core values are, and then two, we use different survey assessments that tell you innately like who they are. So for instance, our front of line, just house staff, front of house staff, they make 22 bucks an hour, and then they also get incentive and they get uncapped commission. So some of these people that are answering phones could make up to $150,000 a year, which is a ton of money for someone that's not degreed or anything like that. Cause I'm not degreed and we wanted to make it to where they're uncapped. But let's say that someone applies because they like the idea of $150,000. They like the idea of how much money it can make. But let's say at the DNA level, God made them not to be on the phones. Like they are an introvert, they have no business doing sales. The interview is just like dating. So I feel like you don't really get to see the whole picture of somebody. So that's something I feel like that's really helped. And then also, too, it gives us a good indication of how they're going to perform after 90 days. Really, like 91 days is really what it tells. So in our leadership, we look for, do they align with our core values, right? Do they align with our purpose? And that's really big. And if we are naturally giving away 50%, we want them to align with that vision. And how can we align our why with their why?
Yep.
And there's some people that they could be at the top of their game and we interview them and they're all about the financial, but they don't care about being about the philanthropy. And that just doesn't, and that's
Yep.
okay. It's just not going to work at Quintessa. So I'd say the survey assessment's big, really defining and getting very clear on our core values and then our why,
Okay.
and making sure they all align with that.
Over the years, how are you? I always tell everybody it's about the who do you hire, but it's also about who do you become. And
Hmm.
obviously, all the most successful people haven't just come out and be like, "I'm here. I'm it." Like at the very top. How are you constantly leveling up and constantly learning more and more to become a better leader? Because when you get to, you know, over 30 people, over 40 people, right? You have to let things go. You have to
Hmm.
put the right people in the right place, but you also have to inspire them, not motivate them. Cause I learned that the biggest thing that you have to do with the right people is not demotivate them. So
Hmm.
how have you kept elevating yourself?
Well, I mean, I think uh, I look to a lot of people that, let me back up. There's not a lot of female mentors available. So growing this business, I can tell you a million ways how not to operate, right? And how I was a bad leader. Um, and whenever we started becoming more financially successful, I started taking, a lot of that and reinvesting it back into, um, really help. So we have a performance psychologist that works with our leadership team, all of our leadership team, including me. Um, we also have a very open and transparent conversation and an open door policy of like, hey, if you are feeling something, you need to be able to come and communicate that up. Um, Naturally, I'm a reactor. Like I want to ignite and get stuff done. And I've had to kind of tame that a little bit to be able to not react when something's going bad. I'm really more approachable, I'd say, now than what I was. And so I think of what is the leader that I would want to go talk to? And I try to emulate that. But I also think it's something that you have to be a different leader for each one of your people because the way that you lead your sales is going to be different than the way that you lead your accounting team or the way that you lead your intake team. So, really understanding, about their family or understanding like what motivates them and how can you motivate them and lead them and inspire them, naturally. And then I think also for us, we get our team involved in our mission, especially on the philanthropy side, so they get to take part in that. Um, and then what's great is my husband, he's the culture officer here. He started doing different things to help our intake team, like if they see someone leading with one of our values, they can go ahead and like nominate them for something and they can call that out and they can see. So I think there's little things that you can do, for sure. But I think being approachable is, I mean, really the best thing. And knowing that even someone in my intake staff will come in and say hi. Like, and that's really big for us.
Yeah, I know when we started getting over 100 people, it was hard to know who everyone was, and
Hmm.
it was really challenging. I would be like, "Hey, guy. Hey, guy."
Hey, you.
I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they talk to you like your best friend, and you're like, "Oh," and it would just and I tried to get to know everyone, but it was just so hard.
Mm.
What do you think, for the level that you're at right now, what is your main role in your company? Like, if you had to list it down to 3 or 4 roles, what would it be?
Um, So I am the biggest thing I think that I do is I remove obstacles. So I remove obstacles and I help solve problems. And I'm the subject matter expert. So because I've done every role in the company now, it's more that they come to me like, hey, listen, this is what's happening. Have you seen this before? I'm like, yep, seen that before. Or no, I haven't. But what we have a rule here that it's like, hey, if it happens once, okay, try and solve it. And, if it happens again and it's still not solved, then let's elevate it up. Like, let's see. Because, there's something that's going wrong. And because this company's not been done before, uh, you just don't know what you don't know. And so that's, I think now really my big role is that. And then also, I'd say really leading the philanthropy side and finding more companies that we can help, um, you know, just grow them through the profits that we have at Quintessa, finding new companies and investing back into the community. That's become more of my role too.
Gotcha. I wanna dive into the problem solving a little bit, and
Mhm.
I wanna ask you a question about if you went on vacation for over a month, and there's gonna be a lot of problems, throughout that month, right? Like,
Mhm.
I always tell everybody I just got off a mastermind call a little while ago. I'm like, "Congratulations on solving that problem. Here's the next problem. You're about to go into a storm or you're in the storm." Like, there's no question about it. One solution creates another problem. So, if you're gone for a month, you have tons of problems. Does the company keep growing, or are they waiting for you to come back in order to fix that?
So the company keeps growing. We've got we've implemented traction. So we have EOS, we have entrepreneurial operating system.
Mhm.
So they're meeting weekly. whether I'm here or not. And a lot of times I'm not here. Like I am not, whether it be because I'm like on a podcast or flying to see an attorney, I'm not in the office as much as what I used to be. So normally they're able to solve, I'd say 99% of what they've
Good.
got going on. So because if the company's relying on you, you don't have a company, right? Now, as a founder, you're going to have way more insight because you've seen it through all of its ups and downs, right? And you know what to do with it whenever it starts, when this problem starts happening. It's an indicator, right? You've seen it before. You've got the playbook. But our company, yeah, I mean, I've taken more time this year, and it was intentional because we have a 10-month-old. So I was off for maternity leave, and the company still grew.
Good.
Like it still ran. And it almost becomes then a new problem of like, well, do you need me? And so when they come to me with a problem, I'm like, yes, like I get to solve something. You need me still. So it's, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I always, I remember my agency when we started going through when I started figuring out my true role, like
Hmm.
my true role of transforming from an owner to a CEO was being the face of the organization, kind of like what you were saying, the subject matter expert. The other one was coaching and mentoring my leadership team,
Hmm.
understanding the KPIs, building the key relationships, right? And what I found is in order for me to build better leaders, I could, in the very beginning, I could be the problem solver, but I had to adapt this framework when my leadership team came to me. I had to kind of train them almost like you're training an animal, right? So if an animal comes to you and you always are solving its problem, well, they're always going to come to you. And I always said, what's the 131? So if they come to me with the problem, that's the one. I
Hmm.
would go, hey, Lauren, what are the three things you're thinking about doing and why? And then what's the thing you recommend? And
Yep.
what I started doing is I started doing that all the time. So then they stopped coming to me because
Hmm.
they knew exactly I was going to do the 131. And then just like you said, Lauren, I was like, well, crap, agency doesn't need me anymore. I go into a creative meeting. I go into a marketing meeting. I go into a sales meeting. Hey, do you need me? Nope, I'm good. Nope, I'm good. And I'm like, son of a bitch, the agency doesn't need me anymore. Why am I even doing it? But then I
Yeah.
realized the other roles, being the subject matter expert, being the face, all these other things I needed to transform into. But I could actually go back into it. I and one of the things I never gave up, that I could have gave up, was I always wanted to be on the first meeting on the onboarding for the creative process. That just gave
Mm,
me a ton of energy. I wanted to be there. I didn't have to be there, and
yeah.
I probably held the team back a little bit, but that's what I love doing.
Well, and that's like for me, I love, getting on the big sales calls, like when they're like, hey,
Mm,
yeah. And so that for me is, with our attorneys, because they're big personalities, right? They normally have a lot to say. And, when they're like, I don't know if I need you, I'm like, well, we don't know if we need you either. Like, you may not be the right fit for us. And it always like, it just cracks up our CRO because he's like, you just love what you do, don't you? I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite part.
yeah, and
And
don't
so
ever give
that's the big
yeah,
stuff.
and Lauren, I'll tell you, don't ever give that part up. You know, uh, in the mastermind, we were chatting one a couple months ago, and one of the members was like, "Well, I want to eventually get to a place where I can actually exit the business." And so, in order to exit the business, a lot of times it can't be owner dependent, and it was very owner
Mhm.
dependent on sales. So she brought in a sales team. Sales team was doing fantastic, but you know what? She was depressed because she was the same way you were. She loved the sales. She loved the close more than anything, or putting that prospect in their place when they say something. And we
Oh
basically
yeah.
went to her and we said, Audra, add color to the sales. You don't have to do all of sales like you were, but be in that final meeting. Would that give you energy again? And she was like, yes. And she's done that, loved it ever since.
Mhm. Oh, and I mean, like, that's the fun part, I think, is being able to do that. And so when you get to do what you love, especially like the part of the business that you love and you can see the effects from it, I
Yeah.
think that's for sure, that's the best part.
Yeah. And the easiest way to figure this out, I was telling people the other day, take a screenshot of your past 2 weeks of your calendar and print it out. And then take a highlighter, a red, yellow, and green, and highlight all the meetings that you were like, that drained the shit out of me. I never want to do that
Yeah.
meeting ever again. Highlight it in red. And then all the meetings that you loved, like that you came out of your like pumping your chest, like, this is awesome. I love it. I love what I do. Highlight that in green. If you do that and you're really honest with yourself, then you can start making decisions for what's better for you and then build the business around you. I always
Yeah.
hate when people like try to build the business for someone else. I'm like, well, why are you building it for someone? Oh, so I can sell it. Well, what if that never comes? Are you going to be miserable
Right.
for 10 to 20 years? Like, why
Mm,
you can be happy now. So
yeah.
awesome.
I mean, I think that's a great exercise to do. I probably need to do that after this call.
You'd be like, no more podcasts.
No, I mean, what's funny is I love being able to talk about the company, but man, like you said, like the energy things, you get as a CEO and owner, you end up getting dragged into all these meetings. You're like, why am I here? And it's draining. And you want to go home and then I mean, for me, you still want to go home and be mom and be wife, right? And you got to have energy to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, let me know how the 2 week audit goes. I'll be curious about what you're going to get rid of. And I hope everyone goes do this. Lauren, is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the agency owners listening right now?
I think one thing that it was really interesting. I've been on a few podcasts lately, and I was asked a couple of questions I thought were really interesting. So we have 5 kids, and so a lot of people will ask, "How do you balance?" As a founder, as a CEO, 110 employees, and then also having 5 kids. How do you balance it all, right? And one, I think with your spouse, for me, like we're very clear on goals and what we need to do in a day, and we have alignment. Like you talk about your purpose and your why. Like we're very aligned on that, and even our kids know, that we give away 50% of our profit, and so we're able to kind of split and share the responsibilities. So there isn't a, hey, this is more important or that's more important. It's just these are the things we need to get done in a day. We've got clear alignment on that. And we have help around us. We ask for help, right? And we're very open and transparent with that. So I think that's really big because you're not going to be able to go to every baseball game or every basketball game, but if you're very intentional with your kids and with your spouse on the time you do have, fills you up, right? That's something
Yeah.
that's really important. So I'd say being intentional, like when you get home, is very important, with your kids, with your spouse, or whoever it may be.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because everyone's a little bit different. So some people, and you have to find what I call kind of your flow for what works
Mhm.
for you. Now, I was listening to a story. I've told this story before, and I love it. I love Charles Barkley, the basketball player,
Mhm.
and the sports announcer. He's like my favorite. Like he just tells it how it is.
Yeah.
And when he came to the NBA, he was telling the story. He was like, I wasn't playing much, and he went to one of his teammates, Moses Malone, a little older player that lived in his building. And he goes, "Why am I not playing much?" He goes, "Because you're fat and lazy." And he goes, "You need to lose weight." Now he
Mm.
goes, "Charles, why don't you lose 10 pounds, then you come see me?" And he helped him lose 10 pounds. And then he kept doing that. And he wound up losing 50 pounds. And then
Wow.
he started playing a lot and playing really good. But then Moses was like, lose 10 more pounds. And then he lost 10 more pounds, but he didn't have that much energy. So he found out his perfect weight. And I found this and maybe about 10 years ago when I started this business. When I was at my agency, I felt like I had to work all the time. I felt like
Hmm.
there's always things to do, and it was very hard to turn things off. And then you
Hmm.
come home and then you're so drained. And then what I started figuring out is if I create rules, I figure out, well, let me work rather than 60 hours, let me work 50 hours. Let me work 40 hours. Let me see how I feel. Let me work 30 hours. Let me work 20. Let me work 10. Oh, I don't feel that significance I need anymore. So what I
Right.
found was 20 hours a week was my flow. I could get more done in 20 hours than I could do on a full week or whatever, or normal people would. And I think everyone's different. And so what I started adapting was I started creating rules around my time. And I've told people a lot about this where, like Fridays, I need to have a recharge where I go do something epic, climb a mountain, fly a plane, whatever it is. And I don't do any work, don't book any meetings. And then Saturday and Sundays are family days. And then
Mm,
Mondays are open to get ready. So I have the option to put a meeting in. And then Tuesdays through Thursdays, rock and roll, 9 to 2. Those are when I operate. And if you can figure that out, and everyone's different, you just have to kind of go little, like just like Charles Barkley, lose a little bit, gain a little bit, and you figure that flow
mhm.
out, then you'll have that more of that balance. I think everyone talks about.
Yeah, optimal. I mean, you got to optimize your life, right? And buying back your time is the most important thing. Like, there's no price you can put on your time.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody has the same amount of it, and we never
Oh
can
yeah,
replace it.
right.
So, well, awesome. What's the website people go check you guys out?
So quintessamarketing.com is our website, and you can learn all about us there.
Perfect. Well, Lauren, thanks so much for coming on the show. Everyone, I hope you guys do audit your time. And if you guys want to be around amazing agency owners where you can hear the strategies that's working for them, so then you can kind of take the little bits and pieces and then start implementing for yourself and also be around a really cool community, reach out to us. Go to agencymastery360.com, click on that scale button, give us 45 minutes, and we'll see where you're at, where you're going, and if we can actually help you out or not. Until next time, have a swank day. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out.